Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about 6 incredible sites, all from Awwwards, all of which have some incredible techniques that we could definitely learn from. Again, this is going to be an incredible stream because of the things that we have planned today. And the more interesting part is I have seen all of these sites, which usually doesn't happen before these live streams, and I can promise you this is a weird mix. I'm not going to say it's perfect because it is definitely not, but this is going to be a weird mix. Let's get started. Today's collection has 6 different sites. Can I call it a collection? I probably should not. Wow. If we start with this one, it's going to be very, very bad. So I think I need to get something else to get started. It happens very rarely that I actually know the things that I'm going to be talking about. In the sense, I haven't always seen these sites before, so this is a weird stream. Let's just get started. This is the first site that we're talking about. Is it perfect? No, it's not. Will we like this? I think we'll have to find out together. I think you will have to let me know in the live chat what you think of this one, because I have strongly mixed feelings. Right off the bat, you start with a video 3D render, which is fine. It's a completely recurring pattern at this point. But also, may I add, the fonts are going to be boring as hell, and it's going to annoy you. This is not going to be a fun one if you're looking for fonts as the hero of anything at all. And this site does get to a bit of a drag as we progress through. So you do get a clear navigation. I will give them that, but as soon as that stops, now you start to see why I was referring to this is going to be the biggest drag you've ever seen. And this site will basically start alternating between a video theme, between a video background and a weird image, and this is going to get worse as we keep on going. So we had a video at the top, then we got a very weird image, probably some fungus or some algae. I don't know, I don't want to know, especially because the fonts aren't even worth knowing this. It's that simple for me. Then you get to another video from a lab, from somewhere, and I will get to the color scheme in a bit, but whatever this is very, very weird. We are back again to the weird video background slider vibe that they've been going for forever, and it kind of starts repeating itself now. And once again, you get more weird images. No one knows what's happening with this site simply because they've just scattered everything. We reimagine the building blocks of plastics, and that kind of goes scattered everywhere, because if that was the point with this site, I think this isn't the first image that would make anyone understand plastics is what you're talking about. I think that's where first things started tripping for me immediately, and it has been downhill ever since. And now they're introducing something else, and everything is purple, but also the slider is not working unless you search for the smallest button in one corner of the universe. This is very weird, and also because the fonts are definitely not complete, because at this point at the very least, you would expect some sort of a precise, pretty looking font and not just another variation of Arial, because when that happens, not only am I angry, it's like throwing your very, very pretty site into the landfill garbage fire of the most boring stuff ever. And that's where things start to trip up and go left and right for me. And then you get to the most boring cards in the whole world, and then the most basic footer ever. I don't want to be disrespectful, and this happens over and over again, almost every single day, but this site is incredibly dull, and I have no idea what I'm going to say about it anymore, because that is the site that we have. And no matter how hard you try to convince yourself that this is going to be a good one, you get to a point where it just does not happen. This is getting dull by the second. And yes, some cool animations start happening for transitions and whatnot when you do get deep enough into the site, but as soon as they give you some animations, they bog you down with a bunch of text that wasn't even highlighted, no images, nothing, and it becomes very irritating very, very quickly. So overall, this site did not save itself. I have to give it a 2 out of 10, because yes, a couple of cool things happen, but it's not even good enough to pull you into any grand league at all. With that, I am just going to stop talking about planetetheros.com. Let's talk about another site, paffy.it. I have higher hopes from this one, simply because look at it. It gives you the image of, we'll probably have higher hopes from this one. this is a interesting site because it takes the idea of making things diagonal, making things shift left and right, and then does some interesting things with it, and we'll find out what they are. I don't want to give major spoilers, but also you get to a point where they've hijacked the cursor. Firstly, I've never seen cursor hijacks work this way, not once in my lifetime, and I've been here for a while, so it's very weird because you have scrolling down, but also I like the fact that they've told you what to do instead of just making you dream like a couple of other sites, which I'm also angry at. This is very weird. And then this is the part where things actually start to get interesting. This site doesn't just scroll below, it also scrolls above, even from the first point of starting, which is an incredible effect to have, and it does make you go wow. And then you kind of embrace the 45-degree tilt immediately as soon as you enter the site, and that kind of warps itself with these 3D cubes that are basically cubes actually, but they tilt into a weird 3D diagonal spiral. This is purely 3D WebGL heavy Figma spline stuff if you are strictly in the world of UI UX design. This is very heavily repeating as well because you have this exact same loop of 8 different things basically going left and right. I love the way they've used colors. I have to say that because when you have a color that's this in the center, making sure to not use that exact same shade, otherwise this wouldn't even be visible, but also use something contrasting enough that it actually looks good and it stays in the same lane without being too distracting, it's difficult to pull off even if it seems like the same color. So I think color scheme with these guys is absolutely incredible, especially this one. This was an incredible swoosh from where we got started, so I have to say colors are absolutely on point. The diagonal 45-degree is such a recurring loop. It's in their logo, it's in their text, and you can kind of mess with it when you hover over the title and stuff, which is incredible because you actually get to have some interaction in a site that's practically dynamic. So that is a good effect to have. You also have 2 different languages, which is incredible. I always appreciate languages shifting between stuff. Interesting story about languages, and I really don't want the person whose site this is to find out. I once made a site for an actual client who used to be in a different place, and they had 2 different languages, and it was so weird because they made a whole site for a different language, and till date, and it's been a couple of months and years, till date they haven't used their customized site. So every time I see a customization for a different language other than English, it hurts me a little because I still go to that site sometimes and they've still not started using that language. Please, I'm sorry if you know who you are, don't get angry with me, but it still hurts to me because I was really hoping my site would be in a different language and it isn't, and I'm still sad about it, although I don't mention it anymore. But I just did mention it, so I don't know what the consequences of that are going to be. But also, you get to see a very incredible scroll bar on one of these corners. Again, really cool, really pretty. I have to appreciate what this does. And you get a couple of social media links, you get a cute description. The navigation is very, very cool. I had never seen it before. You can just go over to this weird cube-like thing, and it does look really pretty. So that has to be the thing I have to mention. And did you know that these are basically starting points for case studies? That is incredible, and it's a common pattern as well, because once you have 8 different case studies to show to anyone at all, it makes sense to have something cool happening which actually invites you to a real case study, and it's an incredible pattern, although I haven't seen this layout absolutely anywhere. So that is a major win. You also get to see glassmorphism happen in real time and a bunch of these templates, and I love the spinny effects, although I'm not always the biggest advocate of motion because sometimes it will make you dizzy because people will go too far with it, especially because so few people know how to get motion right. But the way they've done it, even though it's a lot of motion and it's a lot of rotation, I absolutely love this. It looks incredible, and I have no second doubts about how pretty it looks. It is absolutely pretty. The question I have is, are these images repeating? Because if they are, then that's quite weird. This is the gestures icon set. Does it? It does repeat again. So that's the major sad point. Like, you could have removed these. No one was suing you for it. But what can I say? Overall, very, very pretty site, and I'm not going to hold the fact that they've repeated these into account, because other than that there is practically no problem, and they do kind of do an incredible job at getting things to work exactly how they'd want it to work, and I love the fact that they've superimposed case studies in the middle and still not gotten rid of the background. That's something you never get to see, and this kind of reminds me of old web highlights when HTML5 did not exist. You had HTML4, and this was like 2012. I might be wrong, but you had a bunch of really weird sites. This was before the modern web, and you had all of these sites that were basically only having text, and it did look very weird compared to where things are now. It was very weird because text would be in the center, and you'd have either ads or just empty space on the left and right, and this is kind of taking inspiration from that, but it's also retaining the vibe that you'd want to retain, because at the end of the day, for most blogs and articles and stuff, you can only read so much in the center. Like left to right complete reading isn't a standard even now. So I think this is an excellent way to do things, and this color palette is absolutely incredible when you contrast it to the stuff that's going on outside. Again, a lot of consideration went into this, and I have complete respect for it. Paffy, 10 out of 10, no questions at all. What do you guys think of this one? Because I have so many questions. Janice Thomachan says, yo, how are you doing? What the heck? That footer is so ugly. I hope you're not talking about this footer. I don't think this has a footer, but Ethereos, absolutely. The footer is absolutely ugly. The whole site is ugly, which is why I gave it a 2 out of 10. The whole site is ugly. I want to say trash so bad, but I'm not going to say it. I'm going to stop myself. The whole site is ugly. Don't get me wrong. This whole site is very, very weird. And I'm so happy you're here. This is your different account, isn't it? I remember everyone who came to these streams ever. This is so incredible. This next site is going to make you... Is there sound in this site? We can't have sound on these live streams, you guys. I'm going to get into problems. We cannot do that. Again. Welcome back. Dracaries hold to start the experience. This is going to be a fun one because they take the modern web design concept of glass morphism and they try to get into a game theme with it. So they're kind of making things glass morphism-ish with the old game background, because computer games and web design is completely different, and they try to make them work well together, but it becomes a bit of a disappointment very, very quickly. So you have to hold to start the experience, and this is why I'm talking about this site so much. You kind of have to keep on pressing on the clicky pad on your laptop until the ice cracks, and if you stop clicking, like I have stopped clicking now, it kind of gets disappointed and turns blue again. So that's the major fail of this site. You kind of have to keep on doing it, and it is very childish, and I don't know what to say. Can you start, please? Did you know I don't have a mouse on these live streams, which is why the clicky pad thing annoys me so much. This is very weird. This is very weird. And again, I have to mention that they used a lot of 3D into making this happen. WebGL, Blender, whatever it was, there was a lot of 3D that went into making this happen. And these visual effects are either shaders or something else entirely. Very, very cool. But also, you have to keep on clicking to be able to do anything at all. I cannot believe the amount of clicking I'm doing just to make this possible. And if you keep on clicking, the dragon keeps on spewing. The moment you stop, the dragon becomes very weird. I still have no idea what this site does. I did go through this site once, but I had no idea. You have to drag to rotate, and I'm dragging things now. Very weird. What is this? What am I supposed to do with the dragon? Dragons don't even exist. And suddenly we're supposed to have a whole site off of them. This is very, very confusing. Dracaries is a WebGL. I was saying this before we even started, and I hadn't even read this site. Dracaries is a WebGL experiment. Remember that. Someone has to edit this video out. We will edit it out, and I will go back to when I said WebGL, because I feel like a winner now. Dracaries is a WebGL experiment built with 3JS. Why did I say Blender? I should have said 3JS. It started completely random while trying some new techniques for R&D. I usually don't read this much content on sites, but today I feel really, really like a winner now, so I'm just going to do that. A lot is happening. There is a GPU particle simulation on a skinned mesh, a GPG. I don't know what GPU means. I tried 3D, but I didn't do it. GPU water simulation with mouse trail on floor featuring a custom reflective material, particle emitter, and some modeled meshes on post-processing effects, including bloom, color correction, LUT, and frost. Not gonna lie, there is some effort into sound design, so please enable audio. I would enable audio, but I can't enable audio, so I shan't enable audio. Again, very, very cool, but also, what is this site supposed to do? This is at the end of the day a WebGL experiment. As a WebGL experiment, I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10 because the clicky thing everywhere annoyed me. Did you know you can't look at the 3D render unless you're hovering, dragging with your mouse like a crazy person? I think that's the only thing that annoyed me, but overall I'm going to take this like an experiment and not as a site, and it's very, very cool. And also it validated my whole expertise of this is a WebGL thing. I didn't say 3JS. I feel so mad at myself right now. This is absolutely devastating. Why did I do that? Again, I am very concerned at what this next site is going to do, because yes, it uses 3D once again. I have no idea what's going to happen anymore, and I'm really hoping things do work out. So why did I say that? So what is the site? I have no idea at this point. GerardPerigox.com casket collection, and it's going to be a fun site because it uses 3D, not as a WebGL experiment, but as a standard 3D render that people usually use when they're designing something cool and they want something 3D on the hero. Both of us have seen this 8,000 times over, and we're going to see it again. Let's hope there is something interesting, although there isn't going to be something shocking. So let's just get started because I don't know what to say anymore. You have a 3D render that could also be a video, but it kind of rotates as you scroll away, and everything else is on a separate layer. So there is parallax happening. Things kind of scroll on their own speed, one layer above your 3D render, which is very, very cool stuff. And also, can I add, the 3D render comes back when you kind of keep on scrolling, and there is a little bit of parallax, there is a little bit of scrolling that happens, and it keeps on continuing, and it absolutely looks incredible. So that is what this is, and then you get to see a bunch of images, and I have no idea what to say anymore because this is just a bunch of images and the 3D kind of remains in the background. Again, I think it's very, very nice that they didn't remove the background. Like, you could have changed the background to black, but also things would have gotten very boring then, and this is definitely more interesting compared to that. And before I say anything else, did you see text just pop up and down, and they put it into marquee tags, and time to play kids, a limited capsule. These marquee tags are so weird, and I couldn't read anything at all. A limited time capsule. The original production of the 1976 casket was 200 pieces. Casket 2.0. Why am I reading sites so much today? I feel like I should read most of the sites that we talk about today. 2.0 titanium and gold, because an even rarer site being limited to just 820 pieces. I want it. I don't know what this is going to do, but I'm going to try. Simple e-commerce page. I think I could have done a more interesting job. Not the most shiniest thing ever, but also we're just going to keep it exactly as it is. Again, a bunch of images, all with different scroll speeds. This and this scroll at different speeds. And also, did you see when this image actually started scrolling, you had a little bit of space at the top, but also when you continued to scroll, the space kind of became a little bit higher, which means internal parallax in the image happens as well. I have to make a video on parallax because parallax is something I've been talking about for such a long time now, and I truly hate myself because if you're on the other side of the camera, I'm pretty sure you want to know what parallax does, unless you've seen someone else's video, in which case I'm hurt. But I do have to talk about parallax someday because there is so much to say on just that topic alone. But also, this card is also having parallax. A bunch of things right here have parallax, and parallax is what's giving the site extra motion. If you just put these images in, you would not get the same effects. This is using a lot of cropping with parallax, making things happen. And the text isn't special either, because once you have parallax, that gives you the ability to discount and not do a lot of heavy lifting from that point on. And that is a perfect topic to talk about with this example, because this text is basic Arial, basic Inter, basic Open Sans, the most basic font in the whole wide world. I have no idea why they've put these numbers in the background, but again, very, very cool. And these numbers are also time years, because 1976 does not happen. 76 is not a minute, so these are basically years. I think it started in 1976, and 2022, 23, 24 is when this site came into existence. They've made a second generation of the same exact old watch. I didn't know nothing about watches, so this is all very new to me. And you get a bunch of really cool 3D renders. This render basically can switch around if you work with it, so you can just hover over it shift things around, make things happen, and it does look very, very fun. And you kind of continue doing the whole 3D render thing. I think they took a 3D render they had, and then they took some parallax and they put it together and lost the entire need to do anything at all. Like, that was their biggest lazy flex, and now no fancy fonts work at all. Nothing fun happens at all. It's just those two things, just lazy renders and parallax and 3D renders. This is very boring very, very quickly, and I'm glad the site actually ended. A very simple footer, not the most complicated thing. They did get their white space and margin and padding right, but that's all I can say about this site at this point. Overall, Gerard Peru, I am hoping I'm reading that right, is a 7 out of 10, because I will always appreciate what 3D and parallax do. I will always appreciate the fact that 3D and parallax are one of the harder things to do in the world of web, but also it became lazy very quickly, especially when you started throwing typography and white space as discountable objects and objects that you could just shuffle around and throw in everybody's face, and that hurt me a little bit. So that is where I'm at with this site. This next site is loading, and it loads up to 100. I am very annoyed by the sites that load up to 100, and this does have some very, very cool effects. This reminds me of jQuery. I know I give so many web development references, which is completely different, and I have to start talking about it very, very soon, but this is very reminiscent of jQuery, where you could just take JavaScript, do smaller lines of code than you were supposed to do, and still end up with some very, very cool effects. I've seen people do a lot of really incredible stuff on CodePen with jQuery, but that aside, this site is very incredible because you get a very simple layout, but also it's black and white, and then you actually get to discover the things in color which are present in the background with the cursor, and it's kind of difficult to ignore, because when something is taking the entirety of the width of any screen, you can't really escape it, and the colors do become really, really pretty once that starts happening. So I think that's absolutely incredible. You can also see the full view, which I would want to see, but also I think you can hover over one of these and get the entire image. This is another fun way of showing a bunch of case studies. We saw another site before, I forgot the name, I think it was Paffy, and it was about taking different case studies, making 3D renders out of it, and making that an interesting entry point into the world of 8 different case studies. And this does the exact same thing, although it does it in 2D, and I still love 2D, because getting things right with this fashion in 2D is also a skill, and it is absolutely incredible, and I will never stop being amazed by how they do things even now. And you kind of only get to see colors when you hover over them, which is a shame. Like, if this was a case study, you could have added the colors. At some point, Easter eggs stop being Easter eggs. At some point, people start believing the only thing you did is in black and white, and that's not a good impression to have. Did you notice that when you kind of scroll over these images will become kind of a fabric and kind of get stretchy, and they will scroll in a bulge instead of a straight line? Like, if you just scroll hard enough, these kind of scroll in a bulge, which is not something that genuinely happens. This is a very cool animation effect that they've kind of done very, very subtly. Things will bulge like fabric if you kind of make it scroll up hard enough, and that's where things are at. Again, they do get their name right, and they do get their positioning right. They haven't used many fancy fonts, but the way they've used it is very, very wholesome. A single font, whether it's Inter or Roboto, they've used it very, very plainly, clearly, and it does take up its space, and you get your hierarchy right, and you get your colors right, and things are good enough for me to say that this looks actually incredible. And it would have been incredible to have a black and white site and let these images be the ones that had color, even without us having to hover over and do a lot of hard work for it. But at the end of the day, it does look like a really, really pretty site. And they mention their own time and their location, which is also nice, and they mention if they're online or offline, although why they have a Spotify logo denoting they're offline is a mystery to me, and I will never find it out, because that did not sound like a very smart move to make. But also, play video videos never load. You should have used like a loader, Vimeo, YouTube, Embed or something, because when you try to get genuine videos inside of sites and you try to load them directly, it will either slow your site down or make your videos or your site so slow nothing ever appears, which is exactly what's happening. And that is the entirety of the site. Again, I am very, very annoyed by the fact that they would put a presentation that pretty and yet not have any kind of color highlight, anything special happening in this section. And this becomes really boring really, really quickly. Even when you have all of these fancy effects coming up, I would have wanted to see a little bit more color or some sort of animation, something cool that happens, because otherwise there is no motivation to read this entire text, because not everybody is genuinely coming from a place of I am interested in Josiah. So that's where I'm at. And this was a dark mode, light mode, blue, green, red mode change kind of site, but we never got to see that unless we went to About, unless we already had dug around the site, which is an absolute shame. I have to give this site an 8 out of 10 because the effects that it did do are very, very cool, but also it tried to work with color, maybe didn't get it right all the way. Why are we getting the color switcher after we've already seen the entire site after going to About? This is a very small logo icon, and it could have been present at the top. I think it already was, and it was present in such an inconspicuous fashion that no one ever noticed it. Moon and sun are the usual icons for light mode, dark mode, and why they didn't do that is a mystery to me. I would have wanted to see these colors so bad, because now it becomes a really weird thing of you can only see this much color, which is very annoying to me. Overall, have to give this an 8 out of 10. A very cool site as an experiment, but also had some major lacking points, and I can't discount it. Now we're finally back to the final site of the day. I did not want to bring this up when we started because because I was genuinely afraid that people are not going to like it, because this isn't my favorite site, but it's a funny site if you want to be enjoying humor. So this is going to be a funny site. At least it was funny to me when I first looked at it. I hope it's humorous to you. I don't give you the expectations of this is going to be the best site you've ever seen. It will not be, but I hope it's funny to you, because it was in its twisted fashion somewhat hilarious. That's just where I'm going to leave things at. Cursor hijacks as soon as you get started. A weird 3D render that only shifts a little bit, and it does not shift predictably. It has something to do with UFL. I have no idea what the world of sports do, but apparently it's going to be cool. Again, that is a slider, and it gives you no gimmicks, no nonsense, and the slider in itself is seeming like nonsense to me, so that's the first nonsensical feature they do have. Why would you write no nonsense on a site and position it in the first hero section area where it feels like nonsense? Quite nonsensical. And then you get to this weird place of doing blogs, doing their cards, and they've done it very, very cleanly, and I would have loved to see it be the first thing on their site, but the no nonsense thing got me angry, and I'm not going to leave that grudge now. You can keep on scrolling, and you do get to see, again, free to play. Why is the free to play we are free of nonsense coming up? 9 pages of content. This is where things start to get weird. 9 pages of content, visuals and rewards. Fire up your game. When in this world have you gone to a site and seen the title 9 pages of content given to you like a gift? And when has that ever been a nice thing? When you're making a site that's immersive, has 3D renders, so you clearly know what you're talking about, why would you boggle someone down with the information of 9 pages of content, visuals and rewards? Why not give them, see, again the free to play just keeps on. How do I get past this? I have no idea. 9 pages of stupid content. This is very weird. How do you rich metagame continuous this is the exact, are they giving us an honor by bestowing upon us 9 different cards? These are 3 what is going on? And I promise you, when I scroll, this will give you the no nonsense. It didn't. Wow, very weird. I have no idea what this video does. There is a dragon, and it starts with their own game of football. I have no idea whether it's football or soccer anymore. Update note, again, this is a very weird site. There is no context. When they try to give you context, they just tell you play now. What was this site supposed to do? There is a trailer, and this is the same exact dragon we just saw. I shouldn't be opening audio here. I have no idea what's going to happen anymore. You can support them, you can watch news. Very, very confusing. red background, things are shifting. The only place you don't need to focus on any site is the background, and that's where they've given us their best renders. The places that you do need to focus on, maybe the content, is where they've given us major lol. This is a very weird site, and I am not impressed at all. What do you guys think? Because I am not impressed. I am really hoping someone is impressed, because I'm not. UFLgame.com, I'm going to give you a 1 out of 10 because I like the background genuinely, and then everything was a downhill spiral from then. That has been my 6 awesome sites that we talked about today. I hope you liked this stream. I hope this was something different. I hope it was somewhat interesting. Again, I have no idea how to do this anymore. I will be back tomorrow, 9 p.m. Indian Standard Time or 3:30 p.m. GMT, and we will talk about 6 other incredible sites, or we might make something fun live, because Sunday live streams and Saturday live streams from now on are going to have the same exact builds we used to do, only bigger, only better, live again. That's going to happen.